The Benefits of Being an Octopus, Chapter 3. In the morning, I wake up to the sound of Lenny's car pulling out of the driveway. The electricity still isn't back on, but the sun, that rebel, has started to lighten the sky for free. Another thing about Lenny is that he's never late for work, even though his part-time job at the auto parts store has him leaving before it's 7. He's still on time as a clean-shaven as you could possibly get. Between Lenny's obsession with his lather shaving brush and his insistence on paying attention to the little details like clocks and his car's odometer, he's basically the exact opposite of my mom's other boyfriends, with their varying degrees of scruffiness and whose main talents were eating all the food in the fridge. Well, Bryce and Aurora's dad, Nate, wasn't bad. He was kind, and those times he took me hunting were super fun, but then he'd stopped hunting and started drinking, and you can't hold down a job and take care of kids when you're like that. He'd just look out the window of the camper van we lived in back then like the answer was out there. I mean, maybe it was, because my mom told him loads of times to go to AA meetings, but he never went. Things went south between him and my mom one day when we were back at the boat launch. When we were at the boat launch. He had been trying to convince Bryce to go swimming with him, but Bryce couldn't swim and Nate was drunk and didn't exactly remember that. Eventually, being yelled at by your girlfriend in front of your kids and a whole bunch of kayakers wakes up something inside you, and he drove off in the camper van and didn't come back. I pushed myself up on my mattress until I could see Bryce and Aurora. Bryce had one of his nightmares last night, but you wouldn't know it from looking at him now. They're both still breathing deep, like two little squirrely-haired Darth Vaders. I hate waking them up. It's like you finally won the lottery of peace and quiet, and then you rip that winning ticket into shreds and dump a bucket of angry, screaming monkeys on your head. I pull in my own clothes and brush my hair and then perch myself next to them on the bed and give them each a little nudge. Bryce, Aurora, time to get up. Just a few years ago, my mom was the one waking me up. She'd sing this little good morning song, even though she can't carry a tune. That was when she had to keep a bag of frozen corn on her face to numb the pain from rotting teeth, because some people have parents who remind them to brush their teeth, but my mom's didn't. Still, she was determined not to take ibuprofen often because she was pregnant with Aurora and had heard it could hurt the baby. She finally had to sell our beat-up car to scrape together the money to get those teeth extracted. She got 5 of them pulled, but the worst was the week after that, because there we were with no car, 15-month-old Bryce, who was coming down with an ear infection, and Aurora about to be born, and 2 more teeth started throbbing. That was before we found the Octopus DVD, and that was definitely before Lenny saved the day and paid for a new set of teeth for my mom. I give Bryce and Aurora each another nudge, but it's like trying to wake up 2 rocks. I start to pull the bedspread off them. Bryce grabs hold tight, curls into it, and growls. Monkeys growl sometimes, right? It can't always be a ooh, ooh, ah, ah. Aurora, with her eyes still closed, pinches her face together tight. You gotta get up, I say. You're not Mommy, Bryce growls back. I don't have to listen. Not Mommy, Aurora echoes. Every day it's like this. Does it matter that it was me who told them a cool story last night? Nope. You know, Mommy has to sleep in because she has to wake up for Hector in the night, I remind them. I don't point out that she never stayed in bed like this when Bryce and Aurora were babies. I've peeked in on her enough mornings recently to know that she's probably lying in the fetal position, and that if I ask her when she's going to get up, she'll say soon. But she won't. I've stopped hoping to see her before I leave for school. And being rejected like that is not what Bryce and Aurora need to start the day. "You're not Mommy," Bryce yells at the top of his lungs. Screaming monkeys. Flippin' screaming monkeys. 20 minutes later, I've managed to get them out the door and to the corner of a road in the trailer park, where the Head Start bus picks them up. Bryce is still in his pajamas, and Aurora insisted on wearing a skirt and a t-shirt, even though it's January in Vermont. But they're both wearing winter coats, so that's something. And everyone brushed their teeth for at least a minute. That's one of my mom's non-negotiable rules, and thankfully Frank kept sleeping through the whole thing. When I'm finally on my way to my own bus stop, I see Silas come around the corner of his trailer. He's in 7th grade like me, and he and his dad have a good spot at the end of the row, so that when they look out the window, on one side it's all trees. "Hey," I call. Silas glances up from under his camo trucker hat. "Hey," he says back. He climbs over a gray mound of snow left from the plows and catches up with me. "What's up?" he asks. Silas has the kind of freckles that make you want to connect the dots to form constellations and dragons and things. Other kids give him a hard time because, heaven forbid, if you're a boy and you have a habit of crying when you're sad. But he's nice. Still, I'm not about to let my mouth run about not having electricity. "Not much," I say. Silas kicks a chunk of ice, and it skids along the road. "Aren't you going to ask me?" he says. "Ask you what?" "What's up?" he says. "Oh." I watch him as he plods forward in his steel-toed boots, his hands in his pockets and his eyes on the line of trees beyond the trailer. There's something about Silas that's different from anyone else I know. "What's up?" I ask. "My dad and I went hunting this weekend." He drops his voice. "For bobcats." I look around. "Why are you whispering? Is that illegal?" He shakes his head. "Open season until the second week of February. It's just..." He pauses and glances at me like somehow we're part of some awesome conspiracy. The bobcat is the most challenging game there is. Pure stealth. In the whole state, only a couple dozen hunters will be successful this year. "Why? Are they really rare?" Silas keeps his eyes on the trees. "They're around, but you've got to be like a cat to find them. And there aren't as many places to track them now. You remember that big town meeting about guns last year?" I nod. That meeting was one of the other rare times that Frank got out of his chair and left the house. He even took his .22 rifle down from the shelf, cleaned it, and put it back up before he went. He always keeps it there in case the government goes all tyrannical, and he made Lenny go to the meeting, and Lenny made the rest of us go. It seemed like it was a bunch of people trying to tell another bunch of people what to do. And who likes being told what to do, especially if the person doing the telling didn't grow up here and doesn't get how things have always been? Well, those anti-hunting people put no trespassing signs up in their woods. But that doesn't mean we're going to give up, Silas says. We've tracked both sides of the public land along Squaretail Brook, all the way down the hillside to where it runs into the Beale River. He raised his eyebrows. We didn't find a single sign of bobcat. Not even any tracks, I say. You must be bummed. He shakes his head. It's all part of the hunt. You've got to be just as stealthy as they are. He pauses. Sometimes a bobcat will match its steps to a coyote's tracks. We'll go footprint for footprint. Maybe Silas is really stealthy enough to figure out how to recognize our electricity without the company knowing. How to reconnect our electricity without the company knowing. But it might have to be a bobcat-shaped electrical box for him to pay any attention to it. He's going on now about what its scratch marks look like on trees, about how you have to keep your face to the wind when you're tracking. Whatever bobcat is out there, it's one that knows how to hide, knows how to disappear. Too bad, man, I say. Silas stops walking, looks at me, and gives me that same weird, we're part of the same awesome conspiracy smile. No, not bad at all. I stare at him. I picture his dad and him sitting in the front seat of the truck talking about bobcat tracks. They always seem so happy together, like they're on the same team. Hey, I say, do you know where you file that form to get help with electricity and stuff like that? He stops and looks back at me. I think my dad used to bring it to family services up on Route 14. Oh, yeah, thanks. He nods and goes back to talking about the bobcat stuff and how snow conditions are perfect because they prefer to be able to walk on hard crusted snow. But this most recent dusting over the icy stuff will let him pick up its tracks on and on until we reach the bus stop. It's packed with kids older than us who look a whole lot less grimy than I do, and he clams up like he's never once heard of a bobcat, because that's Silas's superpower, going for an entire school day without talking. He's been doing it since 5th grade when Brendan Farley got people to place bets on how quickly Silas would start crying. So he's really good at it by now. Things would be a whole lot simpler if I could just build a wall around me like he does. I mean, I basically don't talk in class either, but it's so hard to keep my face blank when people are trying to mess with me. I file onto the bus behind Silas and slide into the empty car seat across from him. The bus is warm and quiet, but then I hear a voice behind me. It's Kaylee Vine making noises as if a pile of rotting fish was just deposited in her lap. That smell, she says, like she always does. But not for long. I feel inside my backpack for my debate packet. My stomach drops. Where is it? Ugh. I can't sit here anymore, I hear Kaylee say as she grabs her stuff and heads to the back of the bus. My debate packet, sitting at home, still on the windowsill. Why did I think today could be any different?